Yeah.
This isn't some part about you that is stuck forever. It's just an adapted stance, and stances can be changed.
Hey everyone, today I am so excited to welcome a special guest. Jenn Noble is an ICF accredited relationship coach, TEDx speaker, and host of the Speak Honest podcast. And her forthcoming book, which is actually already out now, is Dance of Attachment: Why Smart Women Do Dumb Shit in Relationships and How to Break the Pattern, which I love that name so much. Because I think, yes, I think so many people can identify with that. And of course, it's really for everyone, but I think that sort of is what brings a lot of people to the attachment realm. So yeah, I thought we could just start by talking a little bit about like what brought you to being a coach and then to writing this book specifically.
Great question. Also, I'm just so happy to be here with you, Sonia. It's just so delightful to see your face again. And I feel like you and I have come so far in so many places of our lives, both personally and professionally. So thank you for having me on. What brought me to being a relationship coach is, like so many other people, heartbreak, being terrible at relationships. As they say, those who can't do teach. And through my own healing process of learning about my own relationship issues and learning about attachment styles and all of these other things that were holding me back, I just started also realizing, oh, I can actually coach about this as well. I'm really good at being able to hold space for other women and being able to help them and see, oh, honey, you're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just you've been dancing to this rhythm that you've had for so long, and it's just time to change those steps.
Yeah, yes. And you are bringing in the dance metaphor there already, which
it happens like I don't even
I'm curious actually how you came to that, because it's really natural. So I had an advanced copy in case people were wondering. So it's like the metaphor really works and it's like so natural. I'm actually curious, did you notice you were starting to talk about it that way with your clients, and then that's how it seeded the idea for the book, or how did the book idea come to be?
So great question. So the book idea came from my TEDx talk, which is on a similar topic without such a fun branded way of saying dance of attachment. But if you look it up, it's do attachment styles determine the dance of our relationships? And at that time, I had already been certified to teach integrated attachment theory. And I had started talking to other coaches at the time. I was hosting these weekly get-togethers to help coaches coach, and just kind of being like, hey guys, let's have like a support system together. And people would come in and they'd say, well, I don't understand this aspect. And around the same time, I was getting married to my now husband, and I was getting remarried, and we were taking dance lessons. And I love dance. I've never been like a professional dancer or anything like that. I always get that question. No, I have 2 left feet, but I just love movement and dancing. And we were taking dance lessons, and all of this stuff kept coming out of my head. And I'd be like, it's just like, it's like when 2 people are trying to really form their steps together, or, it's when you're trying to do a tango, but you keep everybody at arm's reach. And the next thing I know, when I got accepted to do my TEDx talk, that's what started formulating. I wanted it to be unique and different and innovative. And the dance metaphor started coming out. It's how I talked to coaches. It's how I talked to my clients. Although I didn't have very many back then. I have a lot more now. So there wasn't that many people I was talking to about it. And then it just exploded. And the TEDx talk went viral, and everything started kind of coming together. And that's when this book idea came into play, of talking with Lucky Book Publishing. One of the women who helped me through my TEDx talk, Terry Kingston, she did a book with Lucky Book Publishing. So Lucky Book Publishing reached out and was like, hey, we would love to have you. We'd love to see your TEDx talk on a book. And I was like, no way in hell. I don't write. I hate words. I could speak. Sure. I could talk until the sun comes up, right? Like, that's no problem. But putting it onto words, onto a page, never going to happen. And then it happened. So that part is really still overwhelming to me and kind of cool.
When I was just telling Jenn this before we started, that her voice is so natural. So, I think maybe it's because like you're putting that authentic voice from speaking into the book. So yeah, I really recommend it. It's so clear, but also it just feels like you're talking right to the reader.
Yeah. You want to hear the coolest thing, Sonia, truly, and this could get like controversial, but everyone's obsessed with AI and ChatGPT right now, right? Yeah. Especially, I'm back at school, right? I'm at college and doing all this stuff. I think ChatGPT is the greatest thing to happen to people who can't write. Because if everyone is now sounding polished, the people who sound like shit are all of a sudden gonna like, it's gonna feel real. Do you know what I mean? It's gonna feel authentic. And so if anyone's out there and they're also thinking like, I could never, all I'm saying is if a dyslexic girl with ADHD who failed out of high school and dropped out of college and couldn't get her shit together, figure out a way to put words on a piece of paper, well, on a Google Doc at first, honestly, then you absolutely can too.
I totally agree with you. I don't know that you know this, but my husband and I actually have a different podcast called Dyslexia Journey.
I did
My
not know
husband's
that.
dyslexic, and we also believe, yeah, I mean, of course, there's all kinds of issues to like untangle and figure out. But
Always.
in terms of like using it as a tool, like we do really recommend it. Yeah, it can be so wonderful.
Yeah, and it really just helps. And I use it. I always use. I love chat. Right, chat's my bestie. I never have a problem with saying that. And at the same time, I use it in this unique way, as I'm sure
Yeah,
you know, with people that it's not like it's speaking for me.
yeah,
And but what's really cool is you see this in so in college right now, I'm like this 40-year-old woman going to school with these 18-year-olds. It's so much fun because I never went. I'm getting my bachelor's in psychology, eventually getting my doctorate. One of the number one thing I get from teachers all the time is like how refreshing my papers are. And again, I think it's because I'm just writing and it's just me. But 20 years ago, when we were in school,
yeah.
I would get F's and fail because of the type of writing that I do. I have run on sentences. I don't know when to use periods. I don't understand when to use a hyphen and a parentheses. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
But you don't need that to communicate. And I think that really hits home with what we talk about a lot in terms of healing our attachment styles and having healthy relationships is you don't need to be perfect to
Yes.
work on it.
Yes, and I loved that too. That it really. I mean, of course, as coaches, that is our stance. But so much offers so much hope, and that it's not about perfection, and that you can do it. And so hopefully, like, it gives people what they need, that seed to just start, just start making changes. Um, so I'm curious. Actually, I said the word stance in a different context. So that was one of my questions. Actually, I was wondering if you could I'll just pull a few little things from the book as nuggets for people. One thing was that even though we've talked about this dance metaphor, you prefer, like, you like to really use stance from it and using that instead of style. So we'll talk usually about the attachment styles on the channel, right? And we'll go into the four in a minute because there's something there too. But yeah, tell us a little bit about that decision about like, ooh, I like to call it stance instead of style.
Yeah, so in my research and everything that I'm doing and all my trainings, I've really gotten into what is the core of attachment theory. And one of the big things is Mary Main, who doesn't actually get talked about as much as Mary Ainsworth does. But Mary Main is honestly the reason why attachment theory is as amazing as it is. She actually took Mary Ainsworth's strange situation study that Mary Ainsworth did back with John Bowlby back in the day. If anyone's unfamiliar, it's really cool. You can go on like Google and see it. It's really fun. But Mary Main rewatched all of Mary Ainsworth's work and was like, wait a second, something's missing. And she calls them stances, and she always has because of the way that they're not a style. They're not something that's ingrained inside of you. It's a type of system, a pattern inside of us that we've adapted to, right? So attachment stance has just kind of started coming out of me more often, mainly because I talk to professors and academics. And so it's starting to just like, that's how they talk about it. So it's how I talk about it. I like it a lot better. I just think it sounds cool. And then I call them adapted attachment stances because I did a training with Dan Siegel for a while, and his whole thing is about not only attachment theory but also everything else that it is that he does, and he's so amazing. And he calls them adapted attachment patterns, which I love because they're just something we adapted to. They're not anything that's stuck. I think I say in the book, right? It's not like last year's skinny jeans that it's a style that you're wearing or something like this. Like this is something that is adapted inside of us. So when I speak about them oftentimes with my clients, I call them adapted attachment stances. So we can really start to see them for what they are, not just attachment styles. Here's a personality trait. This isn't your personality style. Yeah. This isn't some part about you that is stuck forever. It's just an adapted stance. And stances can be changed. No problem.
Yes, it's such a great I'll have to see if I can get used to using that term or not, because I'm so used to using the styles. but I really do think you're right that it's much more accurate, and like
Hmm.
that matters because how we hear something does affect like how we think it can change,
Exactly.
and I think so the more accurate we can be about that, the better.
Yeah. And especially because, and this is a great thing, all things in life ebb and flow, but attachment styles went on the rise and then got onto, internets and TikToks and Instagrams and all this stuff. And so now everyone's really hearing them and they're hearing attachment style like it's some diagnosis.
Yes,
And I
exactly.
think that's also the hard part. So I think sometimes as well as just calling them an attachment stance when I'm talking with clients, it breaks their mold, right? Like I always often talk about with patterns. What we want to do is we just want to like
Yeah,
just disrupt the pattern and then replace it with something.
yeah,
And part of that, so as soon as even attachment stance becomes too, not quite what it is, that's my favorite thing about research is we're constantly growing and we're constantly learning.
yeah. And I keep that, so that's the way that I've sort of approached that, is trying to pull out, like, you don't have to tell someone they're a certain attachment, all this kind of stuff, right? Like it's about what's actually happening that you can change. Like, so you
Yes,
don't need to
exactly.
worry about that. Of
Yeah.
course, I think sometimes the reason we feel that way is because it can feel like this huge epiphany when we learn about the whole, looking at it through this lens overall. But yeah, it's not like it has to be like in that way where you have to talk about it with someone a certain way, and like, or any of that really.
Yeah.
So, um, so I actually, since you started mentioning some of that original work, I'll also mention that you do pepper in the important research into your book, which I really appreciated. And I was curious, like, I'll just let you answer for yourself though. Why was that important to you?
One of the biggest things that I realized when I was first learning about attachment styles and similar places where you and I learned is there was a lot of just listen to me, don't actually like look into it too much, which
Mm-hmm.
is fine. And again, that's what some people need. That's not what I need. I'm a nerd. I'm a psychology nerd and I needed to understand why and where and how. And if you're going to tell me something, I need to know, well, where's the science to back that up? So when that started happening, I would be explaining something to someone and they'd be like, okay, but why does that happen? Like, what even is our subconscious? And I'd be like, I don't know. And then we're throwing around this concept of like, well, the subconscious is responsible for 95% of everything we do. And I'm like, I'm just spitting it out without realizing I've never seen the research on that. What does that actually mean? What does 95% actually mean? And so in my own system, I was like, I need to know. So I started like just diving in, researching. That's why I ended up going back to college because I thought I'm just going to take a little psychology class, just like to have something to do during the pandemic. Let's see where this goes. And apparently it's still going. So again, you never know what you're going to do. And through that research and more research, I started learning so much more just about what attachment stances actually mean, how they're actually affecting us, what our subconscious actually truly is. And that 95%, what that means, which is also, our blinking, our breathing, I say our peeing, our pooping, is everything, right? So there's so much more than we understand. And the more I understood it, the more I can coach about it. And the more I can coach about it, then the more I can help people. And so when I was writing this book and I started putting all this stuff down, and again, maybe it's the academic in me because every teacher makes me cite all of my sources right now and it's infuriating. And yet it's the best thing they ever taught me to do. I was like, wait a second, I can't just tell people this stuff. They need to be able to go look for it themselves because there's so many times I've just heard something as fact online. And then where's the research? Or someone says, well, research says. Yeah, well, apparently, right now in the world we're in, research says Tylenol causes autism. That's just not true. So that is what we need to be doing. We need to be asking the critical questions. I want nothing more than it is my dream that somebody reads my book and says, that research study you posted is bullshit. And here's why. And I'd say, you know what? Thank you for bringing that to me. Either A, I'll like argue it with you and I'll say why I think it's powerful, or B, you're right. It is. This isn't a good one. Let's do better. And that's to me what research is. It's growing and doing better.
Yeah, and I really appreciate it. Like I said, it's brought in a way that's very understandable, and so I think everyone should just be really excited that it's in there, because I feel like it just really does connect all those dots. Like, how did this come to be, and how has it come about, even while we're focusing on sort of where everything's at now.
Yeah.
So I guess I realized, maybe just briefly, just in case someone's coming to this, I'm kind of making the assumption most people do know about the attachment styles because, that's what I talk about mostly here. But in case someone's new, maybe just briefly talk about the four styles. But the real question I want in there is because you used some of the original terminology for a particular style, and so there's kind of both. And I was just curious if you like how you made that decision. Just out of curiosity, I really think both are valid.
Yeah, great question. I also think both are valid as well. So what we're talking about here is there's the four main attachment styles. So we have anxious and avoidant. Those are the two biggest ones. Those are the ones that originally were identified and understood by John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth, as well as secure attachment. That is the one we all want to be. And then there's this little outlier, this fun little guy called disorganized attachment or fearful avoidant or anxious avoidant or God, how many other names are there, Sonia, for this thing? Because no one can decide what they want to call this guy over here. We're just like the outliers. I say we because I definitely had a disorganized attachment for my entire life. I mean, it makes so much sense. And yet it's over here. So I call it disorganized attachment because it is the name, again, that Mary Main uses. And if you can't tell by now, I'm just a fangirl at this point in time. Like, I just love this woman. I think the way she was able to capitalize on Ainsworth's research and work hand in hand with her is wild to me. And it was just like up in Berkeley or something. And I was like, oh my God, that'd be amazing. Because she called them disorganized stances, and because of the way she talks, and because she's the one that created them, she's the one that identified, I just go with that. I also personally just don't like the term fearful avoidant because I ain't scared. Like, I was anything but scared as a fearful avoidant. And I felt like that terminology kept me from understanding my true self for so long. The avoidant part made sense for me. But the fearful part was like, no, I'm not scared. I'm not scared of anything. I will fight and I'll get feisty and I'll get volatile and I'll do whatever. But disorganized attachment, I was like, damn, that tracks. My brain is 100 miles a minute at all times, right? And it's just like, I want to do this and I want to do this. So disorganized attachment, or as I call it, the pendulum swing dance, is basically a mix between anxious and avoidant. And so you're swinging from anxious to avoidance, sometimes in one conversation, right? It's that push-pull dynamic. You want someone to come close to you. You're like, no. I know we're fighting. I know, sweetheart, we're fighting, but I'm so sorry. Please, I'm so sorry. And then they come towards you, and then you're like, no, I'm still mad at you. Go away, right? So there's this like push-pull happening, and not enough research is still done about disorganized attachment at all. And oftentimes it gets pushed away, which is why I think some of the people out there that are talking about it is fantastic. We need to be talking about it more. In fact, right, it gets left out of one of the biggest books on attachment styles, which is Attached by Amir. And even he has said if he could go back, he'd, rewrite it.
Yeah.
And add disorganized attachment in there a little bit more, because whilst we are the smallest group, I know it doesn't feel like it, but we are, guys. Even though research shows we are the smallest group within attachment stances, we're also one of the most complex and nuanced and interesting. And we deserve to be seen and heard just as much as any of the other stances.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that was my original stance too. So, so for me, yeah, I feel like in a way, I mean, I don't know if that's just because it's where was coming from, but it sort of like helps me sort of shed light on, I think, the other ones, just because, which I noticed actually that you talked about too, because you could identify aspects of the anxious and aspects of the avoidance. So you were able to talk in the book about personal experiences with all of it because of that, right?
Yeah. And that, to me, that's the benefit of being able to have a disorganized attachment. And in fact, through my research in this book, I found this really great, people talk about, oh yeah, you can become insecure. But again, we're just talking about it. I started looking into it and I was like, wait, can we? Like, is this actually, like, is this a thing? But no, research shows that not only can you become insecure within 1 to 4 years. So again, let's be very clear. It takes a while. It takes a lot of rewiring in our brains to get to that secure spot. But also people with an secure attachment tend to be more empathetic, more resilient, and more able and open to helping others. So as you're saying, like, those of us who had a disorganized attachment, look how great you are, Sonia, because of it. Look how much you can help people. Your empathy, your ability to understand them, to speak to them, your hypervigilance of being able to see what it is they need, except now use it as your superpower instead of as a downfall. That actually allows us, those of us with disorganized attachment or any trauma in our past, to build that resilience, to keep living in a more authentic way than even those who were raised secure. And I'm not like putting down raised secure. I think all of us would prefer to been raised secure. But
Yeah, no, but it's true though. It's true.
yeah,
Like that, because we're so conscious of it, right? We're in
yeah.
a very conscious way. Yeah.
Exactly. And so it's not a death sentence. People are like, oh, I had this big traumatic childhood. That's usually the biggest factor that they show in terms of a disorganized attachment. If you had any of those big T traumas, and um, specifically if you have a high ACE score, which if anyone is not familiar, it's just adverse childhood experiences. You can go online, take the test, be careful. I remember I took the test and I was like, no, my childhood was fine. I took the test and I was like, what? You mean not everybody had a family like this? So, learning, healing, growing, it can be overwhelming. So, watch yourself as you go and you learn. But if you have a high A score, I would say 9 times out of 10, you're going to have a disorganized attachment because that trauma wires your brain in a very specific way. And it means it's harder for you to keep those connections that you so deeply desire.
Yeah. Yes. Um, so shifting gears just a little. So what I also loved about the book was, because this is something I really try hard to bring to the channel, is like how it brought in the nuance. So, I mean, I think we're far from the day when people thought it was all set in stone, right? People's attachment styles. So we have that idea of healing from them in there already, but just kind of like that it shows up though. It shows up kind of differently for different people, and then you can have sort of like these percentages. So like I'm thinking right now in particular of how you talked about like how even secure people can have these sort of little bits of things, right? Like that ends up, because what's interesting is sometimes people can polarize. They can be secure, but they can polarize a bit, particularly in their primary attachment relationship as an adult, like the opposite of the other person. And so
Yes.
like you wonder like how can that happen if they're secure, but it's not like quite like that exactly, right? There's still going to be something in their background that's affecting them in some way, some little pieces in there.
This is so important to be talking about. And this is the difference between someone who is secure and someone who is perfect.
Yeah.
I'm never, ever asking for perfection. Secure attachment does not mean you're perfect. It means that you don't put your worth in someone else. It means that you can handle conflict without running away. Secure attachment has nothing to do with your personality. You should still be exactly who you are when you become secure. And in fact, I think one of the biggest questions, one of the concerns a lot of women have when they come into my program is, well, what if I lose who I am? What if I become secure? I should, like, hey, I like that I'm feisty. I like that I'm sassy. I like that, like, I don't take any shit from any man, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, girl, you don't have to change. Being secure is not molding yourself into some standard that is society. Being secure is knowing exactly who you are, living your authenticity, and not being afraid of your attachment. So I learned about this in the Compassionate Inquiry course that I took with Gabor Mate. I went through the year-long certification of it. It was absolutely amazing. And one of the biggest things he talks about, which really changed my thought process, is the balance between authenticity and attachment. And what happened was, we're born and we're just authentic. We come out crying, bare-assed babies. We don't give a shit what anyone thinks about us. We just want what we want. We want our milk now. We're going to cry till we get it. And then slowly but surely, we learn, oh, I can't be my full self in order to get the things that I need. And depending on what type of childhood you grew up in, that authenticity is going to get squashed and squashed and squashed in order to have the attachment, which is the thing we need in order to survive, the thing we need to stay safe. So if you were never allowed to be fully authentic, if you had to cry it out, if you were made to be neglected, if you were told that your feelings were too much, if you were called a drama queen, if you were called too annoying, all of these labels put on us imbalance this authenticity to attachment balance that we want to have. And in secure attachment, it's just about pulling that back. But that means authentically being yourself. So that means if you want to go out and have sushi, then you're going to fight for that sushi. You know what I mean? Some people will sit there and they'll be like, oh, well, I really wanted to go out and have sushi, but he really wanted chicken. And so I gave in and I gave him chicken. That was secure to do, right? And I'd be like, no, that was attached. Fine, do whatever you want, I don't care. But that's you and your attachment patterns trying to keep the peace again. Secure attachment is getting angry. It's getting feisty. It's being sad. It's grieving. It's not being perfect. It's still getting frustrated at your husband when he leaves his shoes in the front door because you've asked him 20 times to do it. That's allowed. That anger, that feeling is teaching you something about yourself. The difference comes in, how are you going to handle it? Because past me would pick up the shoes and throw them out to the front yard, and tell him to get his ass out of the house. That's not effective communication. But now I see them again. I feel that anger brewing up inside of me. And I'm like, babes, seriously. And he's like, sorry, sorry, sorry. And he goes and he picks up his shoes. And now we laugh about it. Sometimes he picks up a shoe and he like waves it in my face. And right, we're playful, we're silly. Because I trust in our relationship. I trust in him and I trust in myself. If we can get that triangle of trust built together, that's secure attachment.
Yeah, that was so beautifully said. I love
Thank
that. And it reminded me of one other, I'll have you do this one other anecdote of yours from the book for our audience, because it reminded me of you talking about that very first time that you expressed a need, right? So this,
Yeah.
because, and I think maybe just having you talk about it will help people understand like how that difficulty was, but also how it is just natural.
It is just natural. Yeah. So
Yeah.
when we're asking for something that we need, it can be so difficult. And especially if we've been reinforced with people who, when we ask for something, tell us we're too much. So, if I'm talking to you right now, Sonia, and I'm like, oh, hey, hold on, I have to go to the bathroom real quick. And you're like, that's so unprofessional, Jen. I can't believe you do something like this. I'd be like, oh my God, yeah, you're right. Wow, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean, and all this stuff. So that would reinforce that belief I have inside of myself versus you being able to be like, that's okay. Yeah, come back when you need to. That's the difference when we're speaking needs to people. So I want to be clear not to gaslight a woman who's like, I keep trying to speak my needs, but he's not helping. And I was like, girl, he's probably not. Okay, let's be fair. But when you are practicing with people and you find that one safe person and you say, this is what I'm feeling. Could I have this, please? And they're like, oh my God, yeah, thank you so much for telling me. It's like a whole new world. It's like, wait, you mean I'm not too much? I'm not needy? And then the most beautiful thing, if you can get yourself a partner who says, oh, I know you need that so much, sweetheart, but I can't give it to you right now. Oh my gosh, that's the biggest honor you could have in a relationship with someone. And that's what we equate this a lot, right? To drinking water. And so if I had my water cup here and I just say, hey, Sonia, can I have some water? And you'd be like, oh no, I'm sorry, Jen, like I don't have any. I'd be like, okay, no problem, I'll get some later. That right there is the same thing as any need you should be asking anyone in terms of how easy it should be. But now, if I hadn't drank water in 5 days, and I didn't know where I'm going to go get water tomorrow, and I see you have water in your hand, and I'm like, hey, could I have some water? And you're like, oh no, this is actually for me. What might I feel in that moment? Devastation, sadness, anger at you? Like I'd be projecting, oh my gosh, what a selfish bitch she is, blah, 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 right? No, that's not fair because you're like, this is my water. You're allowed that. In those moments, what you did for me there by saying, oh no, I can't, is the greatest gift you can actually give someone, is to say no to them, is to be able to set those boundaries. And when you're in a relationship where you're ebbing and you're flowing with your communication and he's saying no and you're saying yes and you're compromising and all of this stuff is happening, you're like, wait, you mean this could be as easy as as everyone tells me it can be sometimes? And don't get me wrong, I still get pissed off at him all the time. I like just blew up at him the other day because he said something on the couch and I was like, I don't want to talk about it, and I stormed off. Because I'm still me and I'm still feisty and I have big emotions. The difference though is that now, again, I'm going to go back to him, apologize for my part, he apologizes for his part, and we work on it. That's, again, secure attachment. That's how you ask for needs from people. Like, baby, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to yell at you, but I could tell what I really needed in that moment was for you to listen to me. And instead of being able to say that, I just got really upset. I'm really sorry, but can I finish my story, please? And can you please put down your phone and listen to me? Bam.
Yeah.
I know, easier said than done. I know, guys, but like, that's how easy it actually is.
Right. Because it takes that familiarity, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's what you're definitely illustrating from the example with the water, right? Is that when it doesn't feel familiar, it feels more like that case with the desperation and what does it mean and all these different things. And so much gets put on then one particular time of asking because it's not just a natural thing. But yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, you've been sort of talking about this the whole time, but I'll ask this question anyway, which is, why should people have hope? So let's say someone's coming in and this is new to them. It can feel overwhelming, when you're first learning about all this. It can feel enlightening and overwhelming at the same time sometimes. But yeah, why should people have hope?
That's such a good question. I feel like having hope is that little part of you that is holding on to what you know you deserve. So that hope is yours. That hope isn't even really hope. It's a knowing. It's knowing, wait a second, I deserve better than this. I deserve a better life. I deserve a better relationship. I know that I can get those things. I just had a kind of a shitty upbringing that makes me do things that I don't like about myself. So what? You know what, girl? We all do that. But that tiny bit of you that knows you want more, follow the hell out of that. Keep fighting for it. Keep driving for it, because research after research is showing how neuroplastic our brains actually are. It is not just woo-woo, like at all. Like I really thought it was for a long time, Sonia. I'll be very honest. I was like, I don't do woo-woo things. I'm very spiritual, but I'm not like that spiritual. I'm very like spiritual in science and like grounding like research, but understanding now things like the reticular activating system and how it actually does work. That's just a big word for this part of our brain that focuses on stuff, right? All of that is guiding us and changing us consistently. And it takes time. It takes a long time. So have patience, but have hope. That's the most important part.
Yes. Yes. Again, very, very beautifully said. I almost am tempted to end there, but let me give you a chance to say anything else you'd like to say, including anything else that you'd like people to take from this book. And of course, how people can connect with you.
Well, thank you so much. Well, first off, you can go and grab the book at danceofattachment.com. You can go straight there. It'll give you all the links. So if you've been listening and you're like, oh my gosh, I finally feel seen in a conversation, this is your permission slip to just be able to take care of yourself. Okay. So I want you to go and pick up the book. The first part is going to tell you all about the attachment styles. I do not want you to skip that. Even if you've been listening to Sonia for as long as you have, even if you went through all the other courses we've been through, I want you to read that part again, because we talk about it, we throw in the research, and we really understand it. But part 2 is the fun part, and part 2 is the hope. Part 2 is where we dance. This is the framework, the method that I have collated over all of the certificates and coaching and training and education and academics that I've been going through to put it into 5 simple steps to be able to heal your attachment style. And no, not in 90 days. It's just that's not possible. It's going to take you years, okay? We just have to be very honest about that. 1 to 4 years is what research shows. But we're going to discover your attachment stance. That's the first. That's D. And then we're going to alleviate your attachment wounds. Those are those labels, those beliefs that are inside of you. That I am not enough. I'm a burden. I'm annoying. I'm not pretty. All of these. We're going to completely change the script on those. That's the best part of this entire thing. Then we're going to nurture your needs. Because girl, you're not needy at all. You are allowed to ask for them. Just like we were talking about, you can ask for that water and you're going to be okay if he says no. And then we're going to communicate with confidence. That's C. And that's the part where we really start learning how to regulate, validate, and collaborate with our partners so we can actually get heard in our conversations and not be blowing up all the time. And then lastly, we're going to embody that secure attachment, because that's what we all want in the end, is we just want to be able to have that feeling. But again, like we talked about, secure attachment is not perfection. Embodying it means living in a way that feels authentic to you. And so if that feels like something you want to do, just head over to danceofattachment.com. You can find the book there. You can also follow me on Instagram. I'm always on there. It's at Speak Honest, Speak-Honest, honestly. And that's where you can find me on Instagram, where I'm constantly sharing tips and tricks and all these other ideas. And you can find me on my podcast at Speak Honest anytime. So thank you so much for having me, Sonia.
You're so welcome. And we'll, of course, put all those links in to the description box. You can find them there. And hopefully people will check out this book, because I'm so excited for it. Like, there's so much work being done on attachment theory, but I feel like this book is really needed. It's really going to communicate to you as a reader. Just trust me. Your authentic voice and just the way you wrote it is beautiful.
Thank you that means so much to me. Thank you so much. And then I'll just leave it with this, is I just always want to tell women, you're not broken. You just need to break the patterns that are holding you back, because you do deserve a relationship where you feel safe, seen, and secure.
Amen to that. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jenn Noble.